did it get to this point? That was the question. How did it get to this point? Well, looking through a country's history, why is Russia the way it is today? It had to get somewhere. It had to start somewhere to get to this point. We always have this in our lives, don't we? You know, the hardest thing is starting. For anything, the hardest thing is starting. Personally, I had to uproot myself from another part of the country to this part of the country. I had to uproot myself entirely. I had to start all over again, you know. But circumstances of life drove me to that point. I had to do what I had to do to protect my loved ones, to help my loved ones, and to make their lives better, you know. And in my life, those would be my jewels, and I'm out here trying to polish them even further. You know, I'm not a person that, you know, I have strict guidelines. I'm not, you know, like all over the place. You know, today I love this, tomorrow I hate it. You know, it's, you know, we're going to get that. You're going to notice this in Russian history. And why is Russia always, there's many numerous questions you can ask yourself about Russia. So we're going to look into this in this book. We're going to have a brief overview, okay? And for me, personally, geography got me very into it. And with geography, I asked that question, then I started reading history. Then I started reading from the beginning of civilization, even prior to civilization, like the Great Agricultural Revolution, about 10,000 BC, how agriculture became one of these key components in establishing civilization. At one time, basically, let's put it this way. You know what? Instead of running around hunting and gathering, which is just time-consuming, you know, why don't we take the food, domesticate it, and grow it in our backyards, and make ourselves a little hut instead of going and packing up and moving and packing up and moving? Let's settle down. You know, it's like that time in one's life. You get to the point where it's like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I want to settle down, have a home, have a job, have a family. I want to come home to one spot. You know, you want that settling down point, having a family. You know, a wife or a husband, a kid, kids, boys or girls. You know, I'm a single father. I have a daughter. I just don't have a wife, basically. I don't have a woman, and you know, so. But I have a kid. I already have that established. And now, honestly, that's a lot harder than finding a woman. I mean, you know, that's the hugest commitment out of the two stands on the pedestal. Yeah, you know. You know, I like to consider myself the bronze medal. My daughter would be the gold medal. But where I come from, there's 2 gold medals. So I'm silver, and here's my 2 gold. And I have 1 gold, I just don't have another gold. So. And that's pretty much the hardest thing about being a single dad. But history's taught me that, hey, I might be a single dad, and I may not, you know, but hell. Let's see if we can figure that one out, okay? In a bit. First, as introduction, I love the title, The Geographical Setting. I think in history, and I strongly emphasize that in history, you must know geography before anything else in history. You have to do that. It's strange enough, but you gotta know where the stuff's happening. What developed out of it? Every action, there's a reaction. Every action, there's a reason for this action. Every action has a reason. Right? And every reason actually has a reaction. We're just going to read from this as well. Here's the first aspect. If you have it in front of you, it's a lot greater. Russia's history and development have been critically shaped, like those of most countries actually, by its location and geography. This is true. Yeah. Geography plays a very important role in everything when it comes down to it. Every country is geographically formed. Every culture and language is within geographical bounds. It was bound to this area. It's like, we see this in a lot of books. We see this in a lot of ideas. We see this in a lot of in our TV shows. You know, you have two islands. Why is on that island they speak differently than on that island? And they're like, they can see each other. I don't get it. There's a reason for that. Isolation usually becomes a very key factor in development of people and in the development of civilizations. Or today, countries. Eastern Europe, we're just going to hop right into the first chapter. But to give an idea, the first thing in Eastern European history one must actually observe is basically migration. We as a species had periods of migration. We followed the food source. We migrated with the food. You know, we were behind the food. Now, we're in front of the food. Like today's technology with genetics, actually food depends on us. Food has to follow us if it wants to survive as a species. It doesn't realize it, but really that's what it looks like, doesn't it? That's what it seems like, because we genetically enhance our food and genetically structure our food to the point where it can't survive on its own. For instance, there's corn and there's wheat that actually only can be planted and used one time. Company actually genetically responds to the seeds, and there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. That species of plant, it doesn't realize it, but it actually realizes in reality, it depends on us. If it wants to survive, we have to create. And that becomes a very huge and problematic situation in the future, doesn't it? If that screwed up and all the seeds disappeared, we would starve. We don't think we are the stupidest species on the planet. Even going throughout our history, we had times where we were like, wow, we could do this, we're going forward. This is positivity. Then most of the time it's just like, you know, we're going to screw it up and go human nature and screw it up. You know, it's like we lost our morals. It's like we lost the point of being a human being. You know, if we're so special, according to Darwin, why are we still acting like we're in the primary stages and primitive stages of a species? Someone once said, we're still coming out of the jungle. Now, if you know evolution and stuff like that, we're still apes. We're just on the verge of stepping into this era. You know, we're still stepping into the plain. We're still on that edge borderline between jungle and the open plains. We just stepping off the tree. I like to put it, we're just starting to get straight upright. We have not did any better. And in Russian history, the first thing in developing in Russian history is the Slavic migrations. Okay? Usually a lot of Slav migrations originated in Asia. Then you have this flood across the plains. The Black Sea steppes, the fields of Russia, flatlands, for sure, the plateau, flooded in Eastern Europe. The Slavic migration. You don't know a whole lot, but you had all these different tribes, but they're all Slavic in origin. Slavic-based languages. And, well, hey, they started to more hunt and gather, little settlements, but nothing really severe. You know, they didn't have a language, they didn't establish anything like that. So the first chapter, which we're actually going to get into, is number 1. The origins to 1300 AD. Kiev and Sarah. Which were pretty much the two places. But we're going to focus more on Kiev in a lot of ways. Now, eventually, like anything, it develops. And Russia, like any other country in the world, developed. But the thing was, there was developments happening in Western Europe. You had the French establishing. You had the Byzantine Empire. The rest of the world, basically, well, not all the world in a geographical sense, but started to develop. You had foundations of polities. You had foundations of civilizations. You didn't have foundations no more. You actually had the building of structures. The building, the settlement. You had Rome. You had the Byzantine Empire going on in this part of the world. And then the Vandals and the Visigoths and the Goths. You had developments in Britain, on the British Isles. You had developments wherever what was going on.